Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this round of the HFG Transatlantic Triple Crown Series. That's a mouthful, that was. We've got the Porsche Cup cars, we've got the Super Trofeos, and we have the GT4s on track this evening at this 4.5 kilometre South African piece of beauty. Vineyards, cricket pitches, hot tubs and safaris amongst motor racing is all associated with those things in South Africa for this evening. I'm just going to walk you through the grid. You won't be surprised that Joost, our relative pole sitter, is on pole again at this Kyalami circuit, although the temperature is 23 and as it stands at the moment it does not look like we're going to see any rain at all. Remember, these drivers qualified during the week, and these Porsches here particularly good here. Relatively wide track here, our average around 12 metres at best. Still moving through the pack. You wouldn't be surprised that the Cup cars are on 1, 2, 3 grid slots there. Steve Entres there, the car number 5 in a P4 on the grid tonight, sponsored by TikTok there on his car. You can see a familiar name at the front of the pack, along with Luke Gar, and Chris Davis. Mr. Springbrook, the Twitch streamer himself, the car number 111 with those South African colours. I will happily be corrected, Chris, if you're listening, but I think you've added a hint of red to that livery there this week. Moving a bit further back, we've got Mr. Bradbury himself, that wonderful Lamborghini, and I'm not going to mention it, but that livery. Moving swiftly on from Drew Matthews' car there, David Hulbert there in the 329 Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and the 739. That is the other Bradbury racer this evening, Super Trofeo car. And then we've got Jackie Harris himself, 159. Didn't have the best of races last week in Massano, but I'm sure we'll see a strong start from him. Ian Hall there, and the leader of the GT4 cars, P12 on the grid. And then the Ginetta Cup, or the Ginetta, I should say. Oswin Wilson's car there, the car number 86 on the grid, and then the Half-Ass Gaming Aston Martin GT4 a little bit further back there holds the record for around this circuit in key areas. And then towards the back of the grid we've got Mr. Cross himself with that livery that's decided to join us this week, and after some tinkering during the week, you can see that livery, which has just disappeared from the screen in front of him. Not quite sure where he's gone, unless he's going to start from the pit lane. And you can see the formation lap there starts away. And I'm just going to have a little look down the pit lane. I suspect we're going to see the Porsche of Cross, the high Wild Things Racing there. There goes his teammate Aston Martin, starting from the pit box this evening. So let's go and jump on board with Joost as he takes us round on the warm-up lap tonight. Pole starts, of course, on the right-hand side of the circuit. I think it's actually the left-hand side for GT3 cars. I think their grid slots are slightly further back. As I mentioned, we've got 15 corners with 6 to the right and 9 to the left. It's an anti-clockwise circuit, so those tyres on that side of the car will be warming up more than the others. Track temperature relatively low today with 23 degrees and no wind as it stands at the moment. We are forecast sunshine throughout, and we are sat 1,532 metres above sea level. Not that you could tell. If you look around, all you see is mountains. You think everything else is higher above you, so that just gives you some idea of the terrain and climate that we are in. The track first opened in 1961, hosted a number of Formula 1 Grand Prix, and it's looking like it might make its way back on the calendar in 2025. Currently a Grade 2 circuit, approval by the FIA, and obviously we'll be looking to increase that status as it goes around. Staying on board with Yes, then your pole sitter for today. He's going to start the 75 minutes of this race very shortly. I'm just going to try and claim my mouse back that I've lost, and we'll jump on board with the helicopter as he leads the pack round at the back end of the circuit. I need to bring up my other track map so I can talk to you as we now go up towards turns 6 and 7. changing my monitors over so I have a track map with some more facts on. Oh yeah, there we go, that's a bit better. As yes, now brings us round towards the end of formation lap. We'll stay on board with him, as we know he will be very keen to get things underway, and he's led from start to finish. He's not actually led and maintained the lead throughout the races. He's always had a bit of a spin or some sort of off, as he now makes his way around towards turn 16. Which is the last corner on this track. Let it go a little bit too wide here, you will drop the car on the curb, and he turns the corner now. He's going to be waiting for that green light for 75 minutes of Kyalami this evening. See the car's very patiently waiting for that green flag as he now approaches the line. Evening, everybody in the chat. Still waiting for that green flag, and there you see the lights go green as Jurst gets a fantastic start there. They were more or less neck and neck when the lights went green, and he's pulled away already. And he's leading as he goes down towards turn 1. We'll just jump a bit further down the pack so we can see what's going on here. A little bit of contact there, looked like, between Luke Gar and Chris Davis. Both running wide on the exit of 1 into 2. Chris rejoins the track, and that Porsche is a little bit vulnerable to him as he's swaying all over the track. And as you can see, the Manchester Drew Matthews there perfectly on the exit there of 3, heading now down towards turns 6. So your third or fourth gear corner, depending on the car that you're in. Chris gaining on the Porsche in front of him massively, as you can see. Zach Grouse there, the car number 11. We've not had the best of start to this series at all. Drew Matthews all over the back of Chris. Going to be looking to make a pass as soon as possible. Can confirm that Jurst is still in the lead with a nearly a second gap already on Louis Arjitsu, who is a very close second, followed by Steve Endurez there, who has not a unfamiliar name in the top 3 of this series throughout. Luke Gar there still in P4, that near contact that he had earlier with Chris Davis on the starting lap. Chris all over the back of Zach Grass. Let's jump in board his helmet and see what it looks like for Chris. And he's going to go neck and neck with the Porsche, and they're going to go down towards turn 12 here. Very unstable the car, I should say. Really easy to over rotate the car here if you're not careful on the exit of the corner, heading down towards that very familiar corner cheater. It's important not to take too much curb, and all cars seem to have made it through there on the first lap. I'm sure that won't be the case through the rest of this race. Not that I wish to jinx anybody. Looking on the rear wing now, you can see Drew Matthews, the car number 13 Lamborghinis, all over the back of Chris. And as lap 1 is over, you've got Jurst, he's your current leader in the Porsche Cup car. Steve Endurez has made his way up into P2 in the Super Trofeo. And then you've got Louis Arjitsu there in P3, who looks like he is still battling for that P2 position as he spins around on the exit of turn 2. That sort of opened the door there for the Super Trofeos going straight through. That is awful news for Arjitsu. He's not going to be very happy with that at all, because he's now got to wait. And because it's so early on in the race, he's having to wait for all these cars to pass before he can re-enter the track, so he doesn't get done for an unsafe rejoin. So your now current leaders are Jurst, Endurez, Gar, Grouse, Davis, Matthews, Bradbury, Arjitsu, Hulbert, Bradbury, Jackie Harris, Curto, Ian Hall, Wilson, all the way through. And I can just confirm that Arjitsu is still dropping. The car number 17 now, he's more or less at the back of the pack now. In fact, he is the last car on the track apart from Matt Cooper in the BMW, as he now makes his way around to start his second lap of this race. Staying on board with this little battle for P2 then. Luke Gar still all over the back of the Super Trofeo, in front of him the car number 5, as they now head up towards the back end of the circuit, in towards turns 10 and 11. The double apex corner here, various different lines you can take through here. The TikTok car there getting quite a clean exit there, but it's not over for Luke Gar, who is all over the back of Steve Endurez. Let's see what it looks like from his perspective as they go down towards turns 12 and 13. We'll try and send it up the inside by the looks of things. It looks like he's going to make that move. Can he make it stick? That is the question. No, it does. And Luke Gar is on the inside line going towards Cheetah here. He doesn't want to be there for this corner. If he's there, he'll know about it. Car number 111, yellow flag. That is Chris Davis. Looks like he has had an off with the car number 13, which I think is Drew Matthews. That is not great news for him at all. Zach Grouse there looks like he's having a better relationship with his Porsche than what he's had over the last couple of weekends. And that's for sure, as he now goes back on down towards the straight, in towards turn 1, all over the back of that Super Trofeo, where he is going to have the outright pace, and he is going to try and send it down the inside by the looks of things. Switching to the external cameras for you there, and he backs out just a bit too far back on this particular occasion. Yellow flags have been cleared in sector 3 now. Porsche remaining on the track, going around towards turns 3, 4 and 5 with a quick squirt the throttle down towards turn 6, which is quite a fast right hand corner before you get to the technical sector of the track. I can confirm that was Chris Davis that span earlier in with Drew Matthews that are now back in P18 and 19. It looks like they're running a very little damage though, so hopefully that was just a spin, and that is now a recovery drive for Chris and Drew after we saw that fantastic battle with Jost and Drew towards the end of last week's race where it rained, dry and rained. Jost is now, well, 7 seconds ahead of everybody else, having a nice little drive in the countryside and thinking about what he's going to do when he crosses the line with a checkered flag. Ooh, we don't want to take the line through there too often. That'll upset the car. You can see it wiggling underneath the instability there. Obviously no traction control in these particular cars. Darren Bradbury there in P7. The other Lamborghini Super Trofeo, I've come on board with him at exactly the wrong point now. He won't want that broadcast as he goes wide on the exit of turn 11 and down towards turn 12. Jackie Harris there, the 159 Lamborghini, is on the back of Alex Curto there. Let's jump on back up board with his GT4 car there. You can see that he's going to try and go down the outside. Oh, Jackie just outbrakes himself a little bit there, having to take the wider bit of the track there to avoid the contact. Ian Hall there, the BMW, not too far behind, as he's going to come through Cheetah now. Don't take too much curb there, otherwise you're going to say hello to that crash barrier and you're going to think about needing a dentist appointment. Yes, is now 8 seconds ahead of anybody else in this race. You can see on the track map on the right hand side of your screen there how far ahead he is. Nearest car to him is Steve Endres, who is still battling for P2 with Luke Gar and Zach Grouse. And you see Zach Grouse has just made his way past Luke Gar. Jumping on board with the helicam there, you can see that those Lamborghini and the Porsche are going to be chopping and changing throughout this race. Chris Davis has made his way back up into P16 with Drew Matthews towing along behind him. The car number 13 that we saw P2 last week nearly had that P1 if he'd have played a tactical game, but chose to play it fairly and gave us a fantastic broadcast towards the end of that race. Let's have a look what's going on with Ian Hall then, who has made his way up into P9. Alex Curto is leading the GT4s, which is obviously a very big change in direction based on the starting grid we had. Let's see what it looks like. Can quote that Ian did say he likes this track a lot, so we can't blame the track this week. That Misano and BMW combination last week really did not work very well for him at all. He did everything he could with the car as they're going around this very technical part of the track up towards turn 10 where you've got your blind braking point. 1 hour 8 minutes left of this race to go. Yes, leading away with nearly a 10-second gap. And Luke Gar and Zach Grouse has dropped down to P5. Let's see what's going on there as the Bradbury boy has made it past him going in towards turns 13 now. Let's jump on board with this external cam here to go up towards Cheetah. Sooner or later someone's going to take too much curb here and say hello to that grandstand. Both cars make it through on this occasion. And towards turn 16 now they go. This battle is on for a while. The Porsche looks like he's going to try and make it down the inside before he even gets to turn 1. No need to defend there for the Lamborghini as they now head down towards turns 2 and 3. Lamborghini still all over him, and just as we switch to helicopter cam, an update on the cricket score. West Indies are currently 67 for 2. England taking 2 early wickets in that T20 this evening. Stay on board with Zach Grouse then, the car number 11, as he goes up towards turn 5 now. That fast right-hander there, you get this line wrong, you come right out right here, and you need to make sure you're back on the track before you hit that grass, otherwise you are not stopping for this tight left-hand corner. Chris Davis P16, Drew Matthews P7. Let's keep an eye on them as they're going to work their way through the GT4. And don't forget, they've also got that cup car among them there, Luo Jitsu, who had that early spin in this race. If you've just joined us in the chat, we've got an hour and 15 minutes of Kyalami this evening for the Super Trofeo GT4 and Porsche Cup Transatlantic Triple Crown Series this night. We've got 4.5 kilometres of tarmac to enjoy this racing on, and these cars are using all of the available 12 metres of track they've got in width this evening, and we've seen some overtakes already. We've only been racing for 8 minutes. Jost is now 11 seconds in the lead. And if I know yes, what he'll do is he'll deliberately spin or crash or something just to make things interesting for himself and give himself a recovery drive. He gets bored out the front on his own. So we'll see what happens with him there. Kurt Bradbury up into P5 as he takes turn 16 now as well. He's got the Porsche behind him, Zach Grouse. That's another move he's made there. And like I say, we're going to see these two chopping and changing throughout the race. Ian Hall still on the back of Alex Curto. A little bit too far back to be worrying about that move at this moment in time, as they now head down towards turn 1 themselves. You say it makes a change, Joe. It's the batting I worry about, not the bowling. Down on board with the car number 88 then, the GT4 BMW, driven by Ian Hall as he starts his 6th lap of this race. 9/10 back on the Aston Martin in front of him, which is Alex Curto, who is going to be, because a little bit too wide there, don't want to be out there very often. And you can see the Porsche of Louis Arjitsu in the background there doing the exact same thing. Want to be careful out there, boys. Take too much of that curb and you will find yourself looking backwards. Luke Garr, P3, 4 seconds off the car in front, Steve Endres, and Yerst is also still leading the way in case you were wondering whereabouts he was. The cameras are a little bit slow at catching up with me this evening, but we can only deal with what we've got. The car number 37 there, see now comes round towards and 16 to start his 7th lap of this race. And again, as usual, the competition, for those of you in the chat, how many times I say Grand Prix instead of race? £5 goes to the Donkey Charities. Car number 37 there. Your current race leader, with an array of colours and schemes on that Porsche. And his next nearest competitor is Mr. Steve Endres in the Canadian driver in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Just coming around turn 1 now, 13 seconds back, but he will not mind that because he's in a Super Trofeo. He's got two Porsche Cup cars behind him. He's going to be quite happy with his current position of where he is right now. Chris Davis made his way up into P13 with Drew Matthews still in P15. Let's have a jump on board with Drew and see what things look like there. Looks like he's running a little bit of damage. I'm not sure, it's hard to tell from the off-board camera, but it looks like there may be some damage, if any at all, as he's got the Chevrolet to deal with now. And then Chris Davis obviously in front of him. Arjitsu is dropping back through the pack. He must be running damage there. He's really struggling with that. I'm actually surprised he's not jumped into the pits and given himself the opportunity of the huge undercut, given his raw pace around here. So we may see an early pit stop from him. Yes, now on his 7th lap, the current race leader, as he's now coming up towards to finish his 7th lap, start his 8th. So you can see there's got a mixed grid here, the overall leaderboard there on your left hand side. There's a couple of GT4s in where you wouldn't expect them to be, and the Super Trofeos are a bit further back. Chris Davis now making his way up into P12. He's got Jackie Harris to pick off next. Let's see what that looks like, shall we? And you can see Chris is going to be thinking about doing this move sooner rather than later. Ooh, and he has to take avoiding action now of Jackie, who was just a little bit further over to the left than what Chris would have wanted. But I may give him a little bit of better run down towards turn 12 and 13. Whether he can gain enough to make the move stick, I do not know. He's a bit too far back on this occasion, I think. We'll just... this camera angle there is so slow at changing for some reason. That particular part of the track, with a bit where you really want it more than ever, is a bit slow. Car's now coming up towards. Oh, Jackie! I said we'd see someone take too much curb there, and unfortunately it was Jackie on the corner of Cheetahs. That's gifted Chris the position that he's been fighting for. So really unlucky move there by Jackie that we've seen. That's not what he would have wanted at all. Chris P11. Next on his list is going to be the Ginetta Cup car. Keep calling it a cup car, it's not a cup car, but you know what I mean by a cup car. So Drew Matthews is coming through the pack with Chris, and they're going to work their way back up. And I wouldn't have thought we'll see Chris starting to struggle until he reaches the back of P6, and then that's when things may start to stabilise for him now Just going to be a picking off exercise for him. In case you've wondered who our current race leader is, it's Joost, who's on his 8th lap of this race, and he's got a significant margin ahead of him. His next nearest rival is car number 5, who himself is nearly a quarter of his way back around the track. So at this point, Joost may as well put the car in reverse and see exactly what sort of pace he can do backwards, because he would still have time to recover that drive. There you go. See, the gap's just come up on your screen there. 15 seconds the gap is at the moment. That is the next nearest car to Joost, so he will be fuel saving, tyre saving, lifting and coasting. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him try and push all the way to the end and pit on that final lap. That's certainly something I would be considering trying. Chris Davis has he made it past the Ginetta? It looks like he has made it past the Ginetta. As next on his list is Ian Hall in the BMW, who is going to be right on the back of in about a lap's time, I would say. So, and you can see, let's just see what Chris does here. Drew Cheetah, you can see a little bit of corrective action required on the wheel there. Don't want to take too much, coming back over to the right hand side, braking at the 50-metre board and into first gear for the exit. Open up the wheel a little bit, don't take too much curve there, because otherwise that gravel trap pulls you into the wall and you will find yourself finding the track in a clockwise position, not the anti-clockwise position like it's supposed to be driven in. Ian Hall there on the back of Mr. Curto still. Looks at a move down on the inside of turn 1, but holds back on this occasion. Put those name tags on for people that are broadcasting, because I thought when things get a bit closer from the internal cameras, it's good to know exactly who it is they're on the back of. Also, you then know how close they are because it renders at a certain distance. Darren Bradbury then, he's currently sat in P7, having a fairly solid race so far. Where is the other Bradbury? He's in P4. Car 870. We've got an hour left of this race then, and we're 15 minutes in, and we've got a various amount of battles and changes so far, spins and yellow flags. The only thing that isn't a shock to any of us is Joost is 16.5 seconds in the lead as he's on his 10th lap of this race this evening. Ian Hall was about to have Chris Davis for company, which you can see there. They're all in the same shot now. What's happened to Drew Matthews, I wonder, who was there and now isn't. He seems to have dropped back, whether he's had a spin or something. Maybe the race has not gone his way, but in a minute we're going to have a bit of a three-way battle. The helicopter cam's going to show this the best. You're going to have Ian Hall trying to take Alex Curto in and the Aston Martin in front. You've got the Lamborghini behind of Chris Davis and the Lamborghini behind, the Porsche behind him of Lou Jitsu. The car number 6 there causing a yellow flag, which is Sartana. Looks like he's just returned to the garage as I said that. Drew Matthews down in P14. Unfortunately, didn't have the best of starts to this race, and it doesn't seem to have got any better for him now after putting on a small recovery drive there. Ooh, this battle there. Ian Hall. Where's Ian Hall gone? We'll look away for 2 minutes and Ian Hall's disappeared. You've got the Lamborghini sandwich. Ian Hall in the back there. He's the filling to this sandwich. He's going to be thinking, I don't fancy that just yet. He's going to sit back as our Jitsu now leads that four-way pack with Alex Curto in the Aston Martin, followed by Chris Davis and Ian Hall in the BMW. So that really has changed direction. So Jitsu, that will now give him some time to put his foot down and clear this pack. As you can see, Chris Davis there taking Alex Curto in the Aston Martin behind. Jump on board to see that little fiasco. And you can see Chris there making it quite cleanly past the Aston Martin, as you would expect the Super Trofeo to do on the Aston Martin GT4 car. Ian Hall's going to be saying, though, right, you two have finished messing around in front of me. It's now my turn to have a go at Curto. So let's see what happens now. Let's jump on board with him and see what it looks like from his perspective. So as we stay on board with this battle at the moment, let's go to an external camera just to show these wonderful liveries that we've got, especially that Wild Things as to mine in front. Ian's going to try and get the tow down towards turn 1, and Kurto's going to be thinking, I don't really want to give you a tow into turn 1. Let's try and break it if we can. There's obviously only so much limited weaving you can do, and it looks as though he's a bit too far back on this occasion, and Ian's going to have to stay where he is for another lap as he starts his 11th lap of this race. Yurs now 18 seconds in the lead, with Chris Davies up into P9 and Arjitsu into P8. I doubt Chris will be on the back of that Porsche just yet. No, he's not. And what Chris tends to do is he likes to take an early pit stop and use his raw pace to try and make some moves there. You can see Darren Bradbury's Lamborghini in front of him. He's going to be thinking, that's my next target. But whether he pulls the trigger on the pit stop early or not, I don't know. You're going to think they're going to try and go halfway distance if they possibly can. So let's see what happens. So Drew Matthews there taking his pit stop, which I'm not surprised at. He's 2 laps down on the lead at the moment, so he'll be 1 lap lead down by the time the others have served their pits. That said, Yurs's raw pace at the moment, he's lapping in the low and high 46s, whereas everyone else on this track isn't even in the 46. In fact, they're not even in the 47. The next nearest time is a 48.6 at the moment. So he's a second and a half faster than everybody else, and that's why his gap's nearly 20 seconds after only 20 minutes of this race. We've got 55 minutes left of the race. On board with Chris Davis at the moment, hunting down the Bradbury Lamborghini in front, and as that battle looks like it's about to shape up in towards the last turn, if not, certainly we're going to get something. And Bradbury runs wide there. Chris is going to go up the inside and go, thank you very much, I want P8, and that's exactly what he's got as he takes turn 16 relatively smoothly there, puts his foot flat down on the floor, and is now going to go after Arjitsu once again, although David Hulbert there in the car number 329 probably be their next target, but he's a long way up the road. Yeah, Chris will be happy with P8 given his early spin, and his pace is in the 48.9s at the moment, which is 1, 2, 3, which is faster than the 3 cars in front. So that is definitely race on, and I won't be surprised if we don't see Chris up in P5 or P4 by the end of this race. Again, it all depends on when these drivers pull the trigger on the pit stops. Anybody in the chat listening, and I can see there's quite a few of you this evening, just drop a message with who you're money on and who you are supporting. Drew Matthews normally brings most of the support with him, the DNA social himself, and he's currently in P16, but he has taken his pit stop, so it's not a surprise that he's down where he is. Yes, now 20 seconds in the lead. Let's give him a little bit of air time, because why not, as he now comes up towards turns 1 himself. You can see there, cool as a cucumber, and the next nearest car to him is Steve Engeres, who is only actually just coming around the final corner now himself. So everything cool and calm in the cup car at the front. So much for a dominant era. I think we're going to have to get some ballast on for these drivers next time. Ian Hall looks like he's still on the back of Alex Curto. That gap's just opened up a little bit more than what it was earlier when we were on board with these drivers. So the track temperature now 24, increased by 1 degree. You might not think that's much, but it will make a difference to the tyre pressures, and these drivers will know that it's gone up by 1 degree. You can just see in Ian Hall's mirror there the Ginetta car, Wilson, as he's now coming up towards the Cheetah corner in towards turn 16. As neat as anything. You can see his steering inputs there are relatively smooth, which is what you need in these cars, especially around this track. Although it looks smooth and fast, which it is, there are certain bumps and lumps that drivers know about that will be avoiding at all costs. Yeah, still in the lead there as he now goes down. Look, see even more his tyres up as he's on his way down there, swaying about. Ooh, it just takes a little bit too wide there onto the grass. Just keeping things interesting for us. Chris Davis still on the back of Louis Arjitsu there, the car number 8. "50 minutes left of this race, and we've had plenty of action so far. You can see the damage on that Porsche there as he goes around towards turn 10 and 11, that will be. And so that's how far he is back from the leader. There is now a significant gap in front. The car number 37 crosses the line to start his 14th lap of this race as he goes towards turn 2. Steve only comes around turn 16, so You can see there that these two are hunting them down. Just to give you a little bit of perspective, Zach Grouse's P6, which are these two are chasing down, he's lapping in the mid 49s, whereas Chris and Louis are lapping in the low 48. So it really is only a matter of time before they're on the back of these cars. In fact, if we jump on board with this helmet cam, I won't be surprised if you can't see the Porsche in front of him as we turn this corner. He's 8 seconds back. Ooh, bit of understeer there and corrective action required for the Porsche. You can see the car number 11 there, the Porsche. He goes down towards turn 1 on the brakes on the back of the car. 329, which is Hulbert's Lamborghini. You can just see the speck of green going around turn 1 there. So that won't be long before we're back on board with these two. And Chris also following Louis. Wouldn't expect him to overtake quite so soon unless it's a mistake given the different class differences. Ian Hall then, a little bit closer on this occasion. Alex Curto, still not quite close enough to make the impact required for the overtake. So great race so far for Alex Curto in the GT4 Aston Martin as he goes around turn 1 towards turn 2. Looks like he takes a slightly wide line. Not that that's the wrong line, but a different line to what these two drivers have been taking. So it just goes to show the different perspectives that these drivers have. Jackie Harris, Matt Cooper and Drew Matthews are your current pit stoppers, and everyone else is still to pit with 50 minutes of this race left to go. And Yerst is now 21.5 seconds in the lead. He's going to be a full pit stop clear if he doesn't slow down at some point soon. And you can see on the rearing there of Ian Hall, I was looking at Ian Hall, sorry, of how close these two are battling things out now. The Canadian driver here defending and driving perfectly and not making a single mistake so far. Oh, that's a mistake there from Curto that we weren't expecting to see, allowing Ian Hall to pass. However, is it going to be that simple? Because it looks that Ian's ran wide himself there. The helicopter's going to show this the best. It's in our race down towards turn 1. Curto is going to get the slipstream all the way down towards turn 1. Ian's a bit too far. You can see the actual difference there between the speed of the two cars. As Ian heads down towards turn 1, looks like Curto's a bit too far back to recover that position that he's just lost. That puts Ian Hall back as the leader of the GT4 cars, although it looks like it's not over yet, as Curto is all over the back of this BMW. Staying on board with them as they go down now towards turns 4. Up towards 5 and 6 we go, and I think the next overtaking move, unless it's a mistake, will be turns 10 and 11, followed by turns 13, 14. Failing that, it'll be turn 2 again. Beautifully kept there by Ian as he goes down towards turns 12 and 13. And now there's a little kink here on the left that you're about to see is turn 12 and down towards turn 13 here. Really easy to over rotate the car here if you get the braking point wrong. Oh, Curto taking a bit of grass there on the exit as well. Doesn't look like it held him up too much. And he's definitely close on this occasion. It looks like Ian got the getaway that he needed there from the last turn. Aston Martin a bit too far back now as well to make a difference. And keeping an eye on that Jiu-Jitsu grouse battle as well there. You can see I was saying they were 8 seconds back last lap. And you can see how much closer he is now. This battle really is far from over. as Ian is having to defend like crazy. Dirty Air, they're just pushing the Aston Martin out a bit more. Just going to jump back on board with Zach. You can see Louis Arjitsu's Porsche there now well within view. Go on board with Arjitsu as well. You should just be able to see Chris Davis's Lamborghini coming around that corner there on the left hand side of your screen in a second. You can just, you're a little bit too far back for the camera angle that we had there. Zach is, here comes Louis Arjitsu now, recovery drive for him. Who's that off wide there? That looks like it was David Hulber's 329 Lamborghini. I'll just confirm that in a second. It was. You can see there that the Lamborghini's struggling for traction after getting his dirty tyres, which means Chris Davis is going to be coming around that corner any minute now, and he's going to be seeing a Lamborghini in front of him that he wasn't expecting to see. So game on for them. That's far from over. Jost is now he's in a race of his own, isn't he? He's on his 17th lap of this race. He's lapping the back markers. Steve's only just crossed the line himself, and he's coming around turns 2 and 3. And this is very much a Sunday afternoon drive for Jost, as it has been all series so far. You can see a little bit of a lock up there. Looks something like the front left to me. Chris Davis is looking at the back of this Lamborghini now, and there's a little bit of a battle that's going to form here very quickly, because your Louis Arjitsu has made his way through, and Zach Grouse is also having to defend. So we've got a train forming here. Let's jump on board the helicopter and see what this train looks like. Still staying on board with Zach Grouse then. It looks like Chris Davis may have had a little bit of an offer there, as he's got David, he's a lot further back than what he was. So he must have had a little bit of an off there in turn 12 or 13 with 43 minutes left of this race, and the vast majority of pit stops still to come. This race is still very much on. I say it's very much on. It's on for everybody but Jost, who is P1 by about 6.5 laps at the moment. So and that was a joke for anybody listening. He's about half a lap ahead of P2 as it stands at the moment. In fact, let's jump on board with Steve Andrews. As you can see, he's at the top end of the circuit here, and Jost is coming around the final corner on the back of what looks like Cross's Porsche. There it is. It is. There you go. It's just come up on my screen for me now, and he's going to be under blue flags. And excuse me, I'm coming through. Time for me to lap, as he now comes through as well. So he's having a race of his life. This little battle here still going on then between Ian Hall and Alex Curto this evening. See, things are just starting to calm down in the field a bit now, and the drivers are going to be now just trying to hold their position and waiting for that vital pit stop to come along. It won't be long now, I would have thought, before we start seeing drivers pull the trigger, although the track temperature is 24, so if these drivers have worked out their pressures to be exactly what they should be, they shouldn't be having too much of a problem out there on the track. Yerst obviously being the key one there, who is a significant gap ahead of anybody else. I would have thought now he is a pit stop ahead of anybody else, so he will either go until his tyres are gone, or he will go on the last lap, whichever comes first. And Zach Grouse there just triggered my pit stop screen. He has come into the pits. He is 16 seconds into that pit stop, and he is P8. So then what's that going to trigger, I wonder, because that's put Chris Davis up in sorry, he stayed in P7, but he's lost the threat from behind. So what is that going to do to this field now, I wonder? Nearly 7 minutes left of this race. Vast majority of the field still to pit. You can see there that Zach Grouse makes his way towards the end of the pit stop. As he trundles down the lane, he's going to come out in P13 as it stands. So the car number 87, which is driven by Mr. Cross himself, with that wonderful livery that we're now fortunate enough to be able to see. Ian Hall staying on board with him as he comes down towards turn 6. So, David Hulber, who's just pulled the pit stop trigger, he's now in the pits as he is coming towards the end, and he's going to come out. We see that little off earlier, which lost the place to Chris Davis, and of course Louis Arjitsu himself, who are now in P5 and P6. So let's see the relative pace that he's got after this pit stop, and Chris will now have to start thinking about being undercut himself. So rather than him pulling the trigger this week, he is responding to the trigger that's been pulled. Another car entering the pits by the looks of it. Either that or it's a slow car. It's a slow car that was on the pit exit. Bradbury then, he's having an alright race. P4 in that wonderful Lamborghini there, and we'll think it's Italian given the livery that he's currently running on, the 870 car himself. Goes up towards Cheetah. Important here to get the exit of this corner right, otherwise you know about it, as we saw with Jackie Harris earlier, who is running in P18 as it stands. I'll serve this pit stop, so as long as he stays in reach of those other GT4s at the back, he will move his way up the overall leaderboard as the Metalhead Motorsports Lamborghini crosses the line and sets a 1:49.867, which is about a second down off his fastest time. So are we starting to see the end of these tyres with 30 minutes left to go? Yes, there on his 23rd lap. No surprise for him, he is currently holding the fastest lap as well, and he's currently on track, and he's a second quicker than anybody else with a 35 second gap. 35, you heard me correctly, 35-second gap to the next nearest car. Jump on board with Zach then, who of course said his pit stop, so that position that he's currently in P13 is not representative of where he will be. He's running some bodywork damage. You can see down the front left of that Porsche has been in the walls this afternoon. or this evening, depending on where you're watching us from. And of course, he is the first of that group to have pitted, so you can see where he's going to come out there in P9 once he served that pit stop. David Hulbert there in P8. His next nearest rival waiting for these GT4s to pit in front of him. Nobody else pulling the pit stop trigger as it stands at this moment in time. As let's jump on board Ian Hall, and ooh, you can see there they've got the leader coming through. You've got the battle for P9 still going on with Alex Curto there. He does take a slightly wider line now than anybody else, but obviously works for him. His lap times are relatively the same as everyone else's, so he does always come a little bit wider through there. Whether that's the Aston Martin for you or whether that's his preferred choice, I don't know. If we get a chance to ask him, we'll ask him. But you can see here now that Ian Hall is going to use that Porsche as a bit of a slipstream. And towards turn 5 and 6, pulling Aston Martin with him. We know, ooh, don't want to touch the brakes there in too much, otherwise you'll lose the back end of that car. Pit stop trigger being pulled by Matthew Mudd there, car 511 down in P16, and that should see Jackie Harris and Matt Cooper, I would think, jump up the leaderboard just a little bit. Everyone else selling out looks like the car number 11, which is Chris Davis. He looks like he's approaching the pit stops. What's he going to do? He's staying out on this occasion, and he's going to start his 25th lap of this race with 30 minutes left to go, and his lap times are currently, as he crosses the line, all within 5/10 of each other, so his tyres aren't causing him too much of a problem as it stands at the moment. So like I say, as he starts his 24th lap of this race, Ian Hall and Alex Curto still there on track. That he's an inseparable pair, may as well get married at this current rate. They've not yet been pictured on track separate at all at any point, so that battle's going to go on. And I really do wonder what this pit stop strategy is going to look like for these two, because I think, looking at the pace difference, Alex Curto is the fastest car on track, but Ian Hall is the better placement on the track. So those pit stops are going to be essential for these two, because otherwise one's going to come out in front of the other. And you can just see the BMW there, the straight line speed saves Ian on these long straights around here. So it's in the corners where the Aston Martin's catching up, which is what you would expect, granted. But it's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens and how this looks on the pit exit. We've been racing for 43 minutes now. We've had no change in lead, but what we have had is a change everywhere else, with yellow flags, spins, lockups, crashes, and position changes galore. Zach's still in P14 down there, but don't forget he's the only one to have pitted in that section that he's running, so that is not true of where he's going to finish. 96 there of Matt Cooper, just getting a little bit in the way of the little battle for P9. Under blue flags though, he'll soon get out of the way of that. Now it's Curto a little bit further back. Jump aboard and see things from his perspective as he now comes around down towards turn 12 and 13. Really important here to keep the car stable, otherwise you really do know about it. And then you've got a nice short run down towards the corner of Cheetah, which is turn 15. Take too much curb here, you suffer from it, which Alex Curto knows all about, because that's how he lost the position to Ian Hall in the first place. Both cars staying out on this occasion, nobody else coming into the pits as it stands. That track temperature is obviously still in the window, keeping these tyres exactly where these drivers want them. On board with Chris Davis then, P6, had a fantastic recovery drive. He needs to be careful that David Hulbert behind him does not pull the undercut on him. Don't know where he is in comparison to the track. Oh, he is... he's a fair way back, to be fair, but I would have said he was still in danger of the undercut. It's a 30-second gap, so there you are. It's bang on the undercut, that is. So he's they're going to come out side by side, mirror to mirror. So let's see what Chris does on this occasion. He is currently faster than David, so whether he stays out and while he is faster, he may as well make that gap a little bit bigger, or whether he takes the new tyres and clears him early on. Let's see what he does on his 26th lap of this race as he comes up towards the wonderful corner of Cheetah, taking it absolutely perfectly there, not too much at all. Looks like he's staying out because he's come over to the right hand side of the track. P6, and that's correct, he's staying out as he starts his 27th lap of this race. Let's have on board with our leader, who currently, as it stands, is going to lap every single car on the track this evening, and that will be quite an achievement. I don't think I've commentated on a race before where that's actually happened, so let's keep an eye on things there. Nobody else pulling that pit stop trigger at the moment, with 28 minutes left of this race to go. Let's see exactly what things look like after those pit stops have been cleared. Just takes a lot of curb there, and luckily the Porsche was able to take it, because otherwise he'd have found himself springing into the wall. And that 30-second gap may well have been a deficit in the end. So let's see. He's now on the back of David Hulber as they go down towards turns 1 and turns 2. Drew Matthews, P14, has had a very unfortunate race for him. And that's resulted with him running down there. Apologies, the phone decided to ring during the middle of the race, and we've got the 27 minutes left of this race of Kyalami. Yerst is currently P1, which is, for those of you just joining us on the stream, will be no surprise to any of you, I'm sure. And that gap now to David Hulber with Chris Davies, I'm interested to see what that's going to be in a moment as he comes round the back end of the circuit. I think, as it stands at the moment, Chris is lapping about 4 or 5 tenths faster than David, so he's covering off that potential undercut before he comes into the pit lane himself. But obviously while he does that, he leaves himself out, ruining the chance of the undercut of the cars in front for himself. So let's see what happens here as the car number 329 crosses the line, and he just sets a 151. Says, yeah, he is significantly slower than Chris, so Chris has got nothing to worry about from behind, providing he can keep these corners hooking up as he is hitting every apex. Driving beautifully there. You can see the Lamborghini there just slide out a little bit, controlled slide, nothing to worry about, and he's 20 seconds off Bradbury as it stands at the moment. Still yet to pit himself. And just to give a bit of perspective here, Kurt is currently lapping in the low 50s. And where are we? So yeah, so Kurt is currently lapping in the mid 50s. So he's done a 50.5 exactly. And you've then got David Hulber, who is currently lapping in the 51.1s, and the car in front of Chris Davies is Kurt Bradbury, who is lapping in at the 49.6s. So Chris is a second faster than the car in front and a second faster than the car behind. So let's see exactly how that looks at the end of this lap. If that is the case, he's going to be right on the back of that car 870 before you know it. I don't know what's very unprofessional. I'm assuming you're referring to my phone call, Joe, but I'll have to wait and see. As Chris starts his 28th lap of this race. Chris keeping the car very stable there through turns 12, and Wilson is the next one. We've just lost a driver from the race. Looks like it might have been Matt Cooper. I think it was Matt Cooper. Tyler as well, by the looks of things. I've lost a couple of drivers out on my screens. That's interesting. And you've got Jackie Harris there in P17. Two P17s on my timing screen, which is really not helpful. And Wilson there on the pit exit in the Ginetta GT4 car, the car number 86, as he trundles down towards the end of the pit lane there and rejoins the race. Zach moving his way up into P13 still. He's got the two GT4 cars in front of him to pass still. And Alex Curto is a little bit further back on Ian Hall now. This seems to have settled down a bit over the last couple of laps. He's still there. He's still going to jump on any mistake that Ian makes, but he's not sprinting down his neck as much as he was. Nobody else still coming into the pits as it stands at the moment. Chris Davis is turning around up towards turn 5 himself now. Of course, was the old start finish for the original racing around Kyalami's circuit. On the Grand Prix circuit this afternoon, Luke Gart in P3. He's got Louis Arjitsu not too far behind him as he laps the car number 11 of Zach himself. And Joost is starting his 30th lap now and is significantly in front of anybody else. 22 minutes left of this race. Joost is your current race leader, and that doesn't look like it's going to change at any point. He's now pit stop clear of P2, but he's going to keep going till the very last minute. Let's just hope he doesn't forget to pit A. So everyone there, as you can see with the green icon on the left hand side of your screen, has pitted, and you've got the ones with the number ones with the outstanding pit stop still left to go. And like I say, it's going to be a case of how long they can stay out for. Kurt Bradbury then. He was 20 seconds in front of Chris Davis. He's now 18 seconds, so Chris is closing that gap down. Don't think he's closing it down quick enough, though, to make a substantial impact before the end of this race, unless something goes horrifically wrong in these pit stops. We'll ride on board with our race leader. We'll do a full lap with Joost as he takes us round, and he's about to start his 31st lap of this race. And that was Joost taking us on a full lap around this Kyalami circuit as he sets a 1:46.5, which, to put that in perspective, is only 5/10 down on his PB after racing for 55 minutes on these tyres. So that just goes the raw pace that he's currently got. Chris Davis is now back to 20 seconds behind Bradbury, so I'm wondering whether Chris has started to lose his pace a little bit there. His hand comes off the wheel, making some sort of steering wheel adjustment. I'll show you his HUD. You can see some of the inputs he's making there. Traction control currently at 6 with ABS of 5 and a brake bias of 55. And you can see what sort of performance he's getting from this car at the moment as he's coming on the back of that Ginetta again, which of course will be a blue flag scenario for Chris. So we'll switch back to our broadcasting mode, and you can see there the car number 37, the triangle on your track map on the right hand side of that screen, is currently leading the way, which is Yerst. As you can see, absolutely nobody behind him for a country mile. He is well in excess of a pit stop clear of Steve now, who, let's not forget to mention him, is having a fantastic race in P2, but he's also got this little bit of a battle going on with Arjitsu when he catches up with him. He's 7 seconds back now. Both cars still need to pit, and Luke Gar obviously is on the back of Arjitsu. You can see there the Canadian driver in the green Lamborghini as they come down towards turn 5 now as well. You can see there that we're currently on board P4, and on the opposite side of the track map there is your race leader as he comes round the final corner himself now. Still nobody else pulling that pit stop trigger. Let's see what things look like as these two start their next lap, I wonder. The car 739 there, which is Darren Bradbury coming around the back end of the circuit in P8. Pretty solid race for him so far. Kurt, I'm going to make some assumption, is a relative, and he is currently P5, the car 870, as it looks like he might come into the pits. I don't know whether I saw his corrections there. Don't stand out on this particular occasion there. The Rogue Motorworks car there staying out as he now starts his 33rd lap of this race. So 33rd lap. Important to remember that I think he's actually now 2 laps down on the race leader, so it's actually his 32nd lap. So that just goes to show the raw pace that he just got. He's now lapped everybody up to P2, I believe. So yeah, that's going to be quite something if that happens. So his last lap there was a 47, which is the slowest we've seen from him in quite some time. Wonder whether them tyres are now starting to think, I've seen better days here, and just start to give up on him. But he's got the time to think, and he doesn't need to try anything stupid because he's more than clear of a pit stop. I've still got no pit stop triggers on my screen, so that means everybody is staying out as it stands at the moment. Darren Bradbury is 2 tenths up on this particular occasion. He's 32 laps in this Kyalami circuit, and he's still green on the Delta, so that just goes to show the sort of pace he's putting in this afternoon. He's having a great little race here in P8. Ian Hall is obviously now behind Alex Curto, but Ian Hall has said his pit stop. So let's see what's going to happen here. Curto's going to probably try and go a little bit longer than he can. He's currently lapping at a similar pace to Ian, but it just all depends on how this pit stop's going to work out. A bit wide there for Alex Curto on the exit of 15 as he now starts his 33rd lap of this race. Just on his 34th, and well into his 34th lap. "14 minutes left of this race." Then we've been racing for exactly an hour and 10 seconds. Let's see what this is going to shape up like towards the end. Most of the front pack still to pit, and they're quite close to each other. Kurt Bradbury in at the pit lane now. He's dead standstill with Chris Davis going to be looking. It looks like he's just dropped off his ramps there. And there you go, yeah, you can see the wheel spin he got there from the exit. And Chris Davis makes the pass. Obviously Chris is still to serve his pit stop, so that was an 18-second difference there. Chris has now got some clean air, and I'm going to wonder whether how much of a gap he could put on it, as Kurt's still in the pit line there, and he exits the pit line and back out on the circuit with he's behind the Ginetta. Couldn't be a worse place for him. Nobody else in the pit stops at the moment. Your top 5, P8 and P9, still yet to pit in this crucial part of the race with 13 minutes left to go. Let's see what Yerst is going to do with his pit stop. I suspect now, given his lap times are still not falling drastically, he's going to leave it until at least the last 10 to 5 minutes before he even considers putting it in the pit stop. Let's see what he does, shall we? Chris starts his 35th lap then, and let's just see what things look like from his perspective there. Clear track in front, and on his rear wing, clear track behind, so no pressure for Chris at all now as he comes round towards turn 2, not forgetting that turn 1 is that non-existent turn between the start and turn 2. Yes, there starts his 36th lap now, still not pitted, and Alex Curto is still your only mid-pack driver left to pit. And it's going to be interesting to see where he comes out with Ian Hall. They're lapping. Ian Hall is considerably faster now than Alex Curto, so whether he stays out too long or not, let's see what he does with the undercut and overcut. Staying out on this lap. I'm very surprised that Alex Curto is staying out. His lap time, well, to be fair, he may not know his rival behind him is lapping at 3 seconds faster than him at this particular moment on the track. Top 5 still not pitted then, with Chris Davis going for the complete opposite strategy to what he's shown throughout this series, which is the overcut. And there you see he's staying out there again, so he's going to do another lap on these tyres. Although if you look in the bottom right hand side of your screen, he is still lapping quicker than he has done all race, and he was only a 10th down on his fastest lap there, so that just goes to show them tyres are still very much alive with 10 minutes left to go now. Luke Gart in P4, very comfortable race for him so far. Luke Jitsu is having a fantastic recovery drive, although he does still have to pit, but he is clear of those in front of him at the moment, so interesting to see exactly how this is going to shape up for him actually, because in P3 from more or less stone dead last, he's had a fantastic race, and the definition of a recovery drive is what we're witnessing here today. Yes, he's just in a world of his own at the moment. He's a yellow flag there from, it looks like the car, yeah, it's the Janetta Wilson there, the car number 86 is around at turn 2. Got clear track behind him now, and will soon be underway again. Looks like he's not going to lose out too much there. Zach up into P12, and he is now after Ian Hall. Alex Curto still staying out, and I'm expecting him to pit sooner rather than later, but let's see what he does. The Canadian driver, car number 20, as he now comes up towards turn 14, 15, and of course the vital last corner, turn 16 as well. Is he staying left? Is he going to stay right? What's he going to do as he comes towards Cheetah? He's a lot of curb there on the exit. Oh, he's staying out again. That was a lot of curb there, so he is now falling back into the path of Darren Bradbury behind him. So he's going to have to think about pitting soon. Steve Endres there, our current P2 driver, is in the pit lane. He's coming out of the pit lane, and he's going to come out of the pit lane in P4. Chris Davis is the car behind. turning around the last corner there. Obviously not going to bother Steve too much. They're not racing in full position after all. That gives you some idea of contacts. With 9 minutes left to go, these drivers are going to want to start thinking about pitting now, because if they have an issue or for whatever reason they don't clear their mandatory pit stop through game error or something like that, they're going to need to leave themselves time to do it, otherwise face that very hefty penalty at the end of this race. Alex Curto then down towards turn 5, got the Darren Bradbury Lamborghini behind him for company into the fast right hand corner up towards the 90-degree left hand bend in a moment. Yes, just to give you an idea as well, he's currently lapping the slowest he's lapped so far as well, so I'm going to guess we're going to see him come into the pits sooner rather than later. Obviously we don't know what pit strategy he's running, whether he's running tyres and fuel or tyres or none of the above, and just going to come into the pit lane. As he now comes around the bottom end of the circuit, the old pit lane where it used to be many years ago when Kyalami worked in a clockwise fashion. 7 minutes left of this race then. You're currently looking on screen at your race leader, who has decided to give the grass a bit of attention on the exit of that particular corner of turn 10 and 11. And down towards the kink that is 12 and under braking, which is 13. Important not to take too much curb here, otherwise you know about it. Luke Garr, top left of your screen, just served his pit stop. Chris Davis, let's see what happens here with Chris, because he's coming into the pit box by the looks of things. And as he gets to the end, and he's stopped on his marks there. Perfect. Kurt Bradbury overtakes him, which is what we were expecting. It's the cars behind. So Chris has gone for a non-tyre change. That is interesting. He's served his mandatory pit stop and he's straight back out. And it looks like he's going to gain a position from that, which he definitely is, because his next nearest competitor is not too, quite a long way back, sorry. So that's a good little strategy that Chris has played there, and it'll also explain why he's gone so long on his tyres. Louis Arjitsu then P2. Steve Endres is his next nearest target. It would be almost seem unfair for Steve not to come away with P2 here, but equally given the recovery drive that Louis put on, I would also not be too disappointed if that was the case for him as they go up towards turns 10 and 11 themselves, the double apex corner. And that looks like the 159 Lamborghini of Jackie Harris, with 6 minutes of this race left to go. Steve closing in and then on Arjitsu, who has obviously served his pit stop. It's going to be really important that he keeps that gap close so that he cannot be undercut. Kurt back up into P5, which is where he saw him running earlier today before the early pit stop that he took, which is the undercut, which has worked quite nicely for him, as Chris Davis is 10 seconds back. So that looks like it's a comfortable position for him. Was that our race leader we saw behind him? It was car number 37 there, up behind the race leader there. as he comes round towards that wonderful little complex of turns 8, 9 and up towards 10 with 4 minutes left to go. We're going to see, I would have thought, 2 more laps of this race before the checkered flag is dropped on our current race leader, which is Jost, who has had an incredible race, but obviously he has got a pit yet. Anything could go wrong. He has left it a little bit later than what I personally would have done. I would have thought it would have seen him in to allow for any errors or mistakes. And don't forget, what we are about to see here as well is he's going to pit, and he's going to have still come back out in P1. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him come in this lap. I think it'd be foolish not to. Yeah, there he is, dives into the pits, and he's now going to serve his pit stop. Don't get a speed in the pit lane penalty. That really will turn this race on its head. We've seen lots of action so far. Not up the front. Louis Arjitsu there, his next nearest car is still the other side of the track. In fact, he's at the start of sector 2. And that just goes to show how far Jost was ahead there. He is 5 seconds into his pit stop. He's not changed tyres. He's off the jacks there. He's starting the car as he comes now down towards the start of the pit lane. And there is the pit line, and he's going to trigger the pit limiter, and he is back on his way to full speed there on lap 41. Louis Arjitsu then the only car left to pit, and just to give you some idea of perspective, I would have thought we may see Steve Endurez take back P2. It's a position he's certainly in, but Louis Arjitsu was also in that podium position today because of how well he has taken that recovery drive that he was faced with after that turn 1 and 2 incident earlier. So 2 minutes 30 left of this race. We're going to see one more lap after this current one, as our current race leader, the car number 37, he's on his way up towards turn 5 himself now. After Jost said his pit stop, just to put things in perspective here, Steve is the next nearest car for him, which is now obviously taking that position back because of the pit stop that Arjitsu had to take. A little bit closer than what Steve will have wanted, but he should be relatively comfortable now with only 1 lap to go, if as long as it's error free. But the point I was making, I've just diverted from slightly, is the fact that Jost is about to cross the line to start the final lap of this race, and Steve has more or less only just started his way into sector 2, so that is the significant gap that Jost has created on this occasion. Chris Davis running in P6, and I think he'll be relatively happy with that. I don't think he'd have expected too much more. His pace has been phenomenal though this afternoon. I'm not sure that's not transpired into positions on the leaderboard, because he's currently still lapping nearly a second faster than the car in front. I think the windows and the blue flags have really not been very kind to Chris this afternoon, but like I say, I think he'll be relatively happy with P6 as he comes around turn 5 now, and Kurt Bradbury is the car number 870 in front of him, 9 seconds off the pace. I think that's more or less a position sailed and sold today. And then let's just, as we ride on board with Chris, let's just see how things are looking with Alex Curto and Ian Hall. That little battle was shaping up nicely. You can see there's a significant gap there that Alex Curto stayed at just that little bit too long, and Ian was able to perform the undercut, and he is lapping significantly quicker than him, although Alex Curto is now the 4 seconds faster than him. But it's a little bit too late in the race for that to happen, as Jost enters sector 2 for the final time this afternoon around Kyalami. Let's see exactly what this is going to look like, as there is your countdown timer gone. It's right on board with Jost, and he's about to cross the line. Let's pick up a different camera angle if we can. Set 2 as he now goes up towards the top end of the circuit. There you are, as he comes around up towards Cheetah for the final time this evening. He's led from start to finish. It's the first time he's actually led a race from the start, not span or lost a position. And he had an incredible start and made a 7-second gap within 3 laps already. So he has deserved the win this evening. It's a flag-to-flag race for Jost, the car number 37, as he comes around turn 16 for the final time this evening. But flat on the floor then, blue flags aren't going to bother him too much as he crosses the line and takes P1 for the millionth time this series already, but this time it just feels as though it really was well and truly earned an absolute stellar performance from flag to flag this evening, and he showed no signs of losing that position at any point as he comes up towards the end of the track and is respectful to those who are still racing. And it's worth noting that he is on lap 43 and that everyone else is on lap 41, so he is nearly 2 laps ahead of everyone but P2. Donuts there as he celebrates on the exit of turns 1 and 2. And as you can see, car number 13, Drew Matthews, comes across the line. He will be a little bit disappointed with that. I think Drew Matthews is P8. He's had a good recovery drive considering the incident he had at the start of this race. But I'd have thought he would have liked a little bit higher up given his P2 finish last week. Just turn that off this week, and our Jitsu crosses the line. He had a fantastic recovery drive. He'll be very happy with that end result. Luke Garr still on the track, crosses the line. He confirms his P4 finish. Don't think we've got any incidents to look at as well this week, so this looks like it's going to be more or less a confirmed leaderboard as Chris Davis comes across the line there and takes P6. And as I mentioned earlier, I think he'll be relatively happy with that. Alex Curto is the next one to cross the line to confirm his P12 finish and P2 in class, which I think he'll be relatively happy with given his battle that he had with Ian Hall. Cross the other Wild Things Racing as well, next to cross the line with the Chevrolet, still battling it out, 5 tenths in it. That was a nice little battle towards the end there. And that is the end of this evening's race, and I believe Jeff will be back next week with your commentary. Unfortunately, I am not here next week, but I very much enjoyed commentating on this series so far. And I will leave you with the replay, as I'm going to leave you to watch that and see how things perform in that as I leave you with that. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.